I minded my own business. I get on the subway and this guy sees me with all this stuff in my hands. And he's like, oh, do you want my seat? And I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, thank you. And I sit down, I open up my book and I'm like with my highlighter and I can feel him like lurk. I mean, this is like a 6'5",
Yeah.
like just stallion of a man. And he's like, oh, are you studying to be a personal trainer? He's like, I'm a trainer. I was like, oh, of course you are. You're black, you're beautiful. Like, please.
Sure. That's a great pickup line. Thank you very much.
And I was just like, I'm like, because I'm like in this moment of my life, I'm like, I gotta focus on myself. I gotta focus on myself. I gotta focus on myself. And right before I had met him, right before I did advanced, I had met I had met another guy who kind of reminded me of like my ex from Long Island. I was like, no, I keep trapping myself.
Trying to get away from that. Trying to get away from that.
Nonsense. This is not what I want. This is not the type of person that I want to be with. And I was like, I got to get clear on like who I want to be before I get clear on like who I want to be. And in advance, I got really clear, like that dude that I went on a couple dates with is not it. And my coaches really pushed me. Like I really focused on relationships in advance for myself.
Yeah.
And like, who do I want to be with? And like, I want to be with someone who is loving, caring, kind, compassionate, generous, supports me in my dreams, doesn't think I'm weird or shames me for being like loves that I'm creative, loves that I am an out of the box thinker, loves me for all of my flaws, has a great relationship with his mom, is a giver, someone who loves himself and someone who takes care of himself. And that's who I want to be with. And someone who's not afraid to challenge me, but will also protect and support me and guide me and teach me things in life that I don't know, learn more about different cultures and be with someone who wouldn't shame me for being so white from Long Island.
Yeah.
And so that's what I put out in the universe in advance. And 3 weeks later, I get on the subway. This man gives me a seat. We start talking and I was like, no, please, not right now. And we get off at the same stop in Harlem. And I was going to see my old roommates because I used to live in Harlem. I was living in Queens at the time. And he gets off at the same stop. And he's like, do you live up here? And I was like, are you trying to follow me home? And he's like, no, I live up here. I was like, oh, I used to live up here. I'm going to see my old roommates. And he's like, oh, where did you used to live? And that's when I was like, are you trying to follow me? I was like, well, I used to live on 110th and 5th and then 110th and Madison. He's like, what's that? He's like, I've never seen you before. And I happened to live in the building right next to his mom's for years.
Wow.
This was years prior.
Yeah.
And never crossed paths. We probably physically had walked past each other, but never interacted. And so we're standing on the subway platform and I'm like, look, like I've got things to do. He's like, well, can I have your number? And I was like, sure. So I give him my number and I'm like, he's not gonna call me. Or like, he's going to be like, I'm creating that same limiting belief of like, oh, he's just going to be like everyone else. Like, trying to whatever, like, and so I was like, just be quiet. Just go back to focusing on yourself and whatever it will be, it will be. And like, don't put so much pressure on it. Just let it go. And so he calls me the next day. I was like, how old? Like, this was the era of texting at the max, right?
Yeah. Wow, and he called.
And he calls and I was like,
what the?
Who is this guy?
It's not like just text of like, hi, how are you? Great to meet you.
Right. So we actually sat on the phone for like 2 hours.
Wow.
And we talked about maybe getting together, but then I had to come out to California for work. But we actually spoke on the phone and texted, but spoke on the phone quite a bit for the first 2 weeks after meeting. And we really got to know each other. Like there was no physical connection. We just connected on a intellectual and emotional basis. And I'm like, wow, this guy is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And so I come back to New York and I had just started leadership and I was off of work this random Friday in August. And I don't know why I think I took the day off because I had my first one-on-one coaching session with my mentor in my leadership training. And I was like, I really want to be fully present for this. I want to take the day after the call and really start evaluating my and working on my LOA, which is a letter of accomplishment, which is this project that they have you do to stretch yourself and really set yourself up for success, and like identify what you really want in life in all areas, like health and wellness, relationships, finances, career, and education, and community, and your involvement within the world. And I really wanted to give myself the space to do that. So I had the call with her. I went into the city because I had planned to start working on this. Like I always like when I'm creating a vision like that, I like to be outside and just let the universe speak to me.
Yeah.
And so I was going to go to Central Park and work on this. And I had texted him and just said like, hey, what are you doing? I'm in the city. Would you want to get together for lunch? And the myth of lunch dates put you in the friend zone. We've been together for 11 years and we have a baby. So don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Myth.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so he was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I had come into the city from Queens. I was in just like this basic black romper. Like the perfectionist in me would have been like at home getting ready for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Making sure my makeup looked perfect. I barely had on any makeup. I was like, whatever. Like, I'm like, I go to lunch with him. If he's cool, cool. If not, cool. I go on with my life. And because I took off all the pressure and I was just so confident in who I am and how I'm going to show up in the world as just me and not worry about being something else. We go to lunch and we have a great conversation. I first met, right before I met Mark, my dad's like, well, like, what kind of guy do you want to be with? Because they kept trying to push me, like, go back to your ex, go like, and I'm just like, no, he's not it. And I'm like, I just want a tall, dark, handsome man who loves me for me and doesn't like make me feel weird for being weird.
Yeah.
And then I met him, and when my parents first met him, it was actually, we had gone out east to the vineyards for a winery tour, and then we went back to my parents' house, and that's when he met him for the first time. And they wanted to get to know him, and I was very naive that no, my parents aren't racist. They accept you. And like, I'm unaware because I don't have the experience of a black man.
Yeah.
I can't put myself in his shoes fully and see what he's seeing and feel what he's feeling, but I can listen and I can respect him and I can appreciate his point of view and want to understand more and want to learn more. And my family is not able to do that. They are just so limited with being able to do that. And it became very clear, like, a lot of in-laws will just pick up the phone and have a conversation with their son-in-law, their daughter-in-law, and like they love spending time with each other and they love asking deep, meaningful questions and having real conversations with them. And everything has always been very topical, like, oh, how are the Giants? How's the weather? Like, just that's as deep as like conversations went.
Yeah.
And that's really based on a limitation of my family, not knowing. They're scared. They're scared to have a conversation because of their own limiting beliefs and their own. And that's not to give them an excuse.
Yeah.
And that's on them. Like, they can choose to change. They can choose to want to learn more without being so scared of the outcome of the conversation. But because they have such a fear of like, oh no, will he be an angry black man if I ask this question? I'm just not even gonna ask questions then.
Yeah.
And my family thinks that I very much make things about race. And my father has said, like, not everything needs to be about race. And I was like, when you are a black man living in America, everything is about race.
Everything is about race. When you're of a different color, if you're not white, unfortunately, everything is about race and color and all of it.
Yes.
So.
And they are just so unwilling to even being able to accept and understand that.
Also be compassionate and sympathize and be empathetic.
Compassion and the empathy is
like, you need to put yourself in their shoes also to see what kind of world that they live in and through their lessons.
Yeah. And it's I've done a lot of things to help try to get them to do that.
Yeah.
For example, when George Floyd was killed, I was pregnant with Miles,
Mhm.
and I wrote a letter to my family. Um, if I would have pulled it up, I would have read it to you. But in essence, what it said was, "This could have been my husband.
Yeah.
This could be your future." And I sent it to my entire family.
Mhm.
And the intention was to make it very clear that the tribe and the village and the love and the protection that my child will need surrounding him will
Mhm.
look completely different than any other child in our family, than the way that we experience life. And I, as a white woman married to a black man, am concerned every single day when my husband steps out into the world
Mhm.
that he could end up in George Floyd's situation.
Yeah.
My future child is going to be seen as a black man.
Mhm.
No one's going to see him as mixed.
Nope.
They're going to see him as a black man.
Yep.
He might be on the lighter side.
That's still gonna see him as a black
They're
person.
still going to see him as a black man. And
Mhm.
he is not exempt from anything because his mother is white.
Yep.
He does not get a white card pass because I am white. Because
Nope.
when he's standing there by himself without me attached to him, no one will know that.
Mhm.
And the responses from my family were on different spectrums.
Mhm.
One of my sisters really appreciate, and in the letter I gave them multiple resources to go read and look at. And one thing that I sent to them was the Professor Jane Elliott, I believe that's her name, this blue-eyed project that she did. If you don't know
Mhm.
what it is, go look it up.
Yeah,
It's
I know. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
um, and and that was so eye-opening.
Mhm.
And just I sent them different articles and different videos and di different things for them to try to empathize and
Yeah.
experience what it's like through the lens of his eyes, and what's going to be the lens that my son, their future nephew, grandson, great grandson, how he's going to experience the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so one of my sisters, who is a nurse in the city, she really appreciated the letter, and she's like, I definitely have unconscious bias that I'm not aware of. And even working with other nurses of color in my department, like, I'm learning so much more, and especially in the political turmoil that we're in right now, I'm really starting to rethink, because we were Eastern white Long Island, very Republican. And
Yeah.
I was like, and I'm like the most democratic liberal person in my family, who's like,
Mhm.
we need to love and appreciate and respect and empathize with all human beings, regardless of what they look like.
Mhm.
I just have a different brain
Yeah.
than
Did you
where I
send
grew up.
them Who We Are on Netflix?
No,
That's a good one too.
who we are.
Yeah,
Uh,
Who We Are on Netflix.
yeah, and what I want them to watch now is oh my god, I'm drawing a total blank on his name. His last name is Bell. He's a comedian and journalist. He's married to a white woman, has mixed kids. He did a whole documentary on I'm forgetting the name of it. It's something like growing up 100% mixed, I think. And
Mhm.
he's interviewing kids and
Yeah.
asking them their experience
Of
of
being mixed and
being mixed.
Mhm.
And I really think that could bring some light to like how Miles is going to experience the
Yeah.
world. But I
Yeah.
wrote this letter. I was pregnant, and one of my sisters empathized. My parents were like, no, no, we understand, we understand, we understand, but they don't fully understand because they don't slow down to
Yeah.
actually walk through, like, visualize and experience
Yeah.
where this may happen. And so, um, who we are, yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah, that's a
um,
really good one.
um, and so I had my grandparents, bless them, they printed the letter, they watched every video, they printed every article,
Oh my god.
and they really want to be able to understand,
That
you
is
know,
so nice and sweet that they were really coming from a place of understanding.
yeah. And when I called them, when they called me after I sent it, they're like, Caitlin, that letter was just so lovely. And we
Mm.
are so unaware of what we don't know. And like
Yeah.
they truly are empathetic people, and they want
Mhm.
to learn and understand. And of course, anyone of a certain age has their own limitations and own biases because of the way that they were raised. Like everything's generational. But with the more information we have, the more opportunities we have to choose to change and break generational ties.
Exactly.
And generational trauma and the way that the system has been set up. And so I had another set of couple aunt and uncles replied back, and they're like, thank you for sharing. Like, we're definitely going to read everything and appreciate, you know, what you had to say. Some were total silence. And then another set of one of my aunts said, did something happen to you? Like something negative had to happen to me in order for that to trigger me to send it to him. And he, regardless of what you want to think of him and what you want to portray George Floyd as, because of what the media is labeling him as, regardless of what he had or what was happening at the time in his own life because of his experiences, regardless of what any Black man is going through, whether he's unfortunately on drugs or experiencing alcoholism, whatever it is, he's still a Black man that was murdered by police for no reason after he screamed out for help and other people stood around and did not help him. And just because he was a Black man in a car. The other stuff came out after of like what he was doing and what triggered it. It was simply because he was a Black man. And that could be my husband. And so that is what I'm reacting to. That you, regardless that I've been with him for all these years, everyone doesn't understand what he faces every single day. And more significantly, what our child will face as he grows up in this world, in being a Black man in America. And after that, it sparked conversations of like, well, Mark's niece and nephew aren't that dark. Like, he'll probably be light. I was like,
what does
that have? Like,
what is
the systematic issues of colorism just are fascinating. And so, you know, he's 3 now, and we lived in New York City and we lived in LA. So like people ask us, like, have you experienced like abrupt racism with yourselves? And like, people have stared, it happens they're like microaggressions. We've never experienced like direct, like blatant in our face aggression, but things like we walk up to a counter and they're like, they'll talk to him and then they're like, ma'am, we'll be right with you. I'm like, no, we're together. Like we're not party of 2, we must be separate, because how even still, like, people will think that. And so people have asked me, they're like, oh, he's so cute. Is he yours? Yes, he's mine.
Did you birth him?
Yes. Is he adopted? Like, people start making up all these stories of like how you got to where you are. And I don't want my kid to grow up like that, but I have to, me as a white person, I can do what other white people do and go, that's not going to happen, and just ignore it. Or I can be
proactive
and
educate people,
aware of these are the things that may happen, and I can set us up for better success, prepare myself so that we know what could potentially be coming, and not put it out there so that we call for it, but educate and set us up for success. And with these books, I want to be able to educate other people and be able to, because our minds are going so fast. And when something's uncomfortable and hits us, like, oh, your Black grandson experienced racism at a birthday party. No, that can't happen. Like, they just want to deflect and like pretend like those things aren't possible.
They probably just like don't want to fight, you know. They don't, you know,
like to really help people slow down. And it's okay to envision something uncomfortable happening, because at the end of that, you then can see, oh, this is how I can flip the story and I can prepare us for that situation. Or as a white adult reading it, my hope would be, oh, wow, maybe I do have an unconscious bias where I would automatically say the white kid couldn't have possibly said that. And it's some self-reflection. for you to realize like what's your automatic response.
Yeah.
Even, you know, my parents, like for so long, like a year ago, I would have been scared to share this
Yeah.
on a public platform because I'm always so scared of like how they're going to feel and
Yeah.
protecting them.
Mhm.
And by doing that, um, Butta said this in our training, like how, I don't know if he said it or if somebody else on the call said it, one of the other people participating, but something to the effect of like, how long will you sit in your discomfort to make other people feel comfortable?
Yeah, yeah. And that's how I used to live my entire life, like making sure that people all around me are comfortable and how I can read them to make sure that the situation's okay and hide
Yeah.
myself and hide, my discomforts or so there's no fighting. Everybody's good.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to be like that.
It's
So,
exhausting. And what I've learned through doing this work, through momentum, through uh the professional development that I've done over the years through my career, and now as through the process of when I got certified as a life coach, I am not responsible for other
mhm,
people's actions, reactions, emotions, or intelligence.
yeah.
All I'm responsible for is how I show up. And
Mhm.
I know that when I lead with my heart and lead with my light, everything else will be all right. And the things that aren't meant to be in my space anymore won't be.
Yeah.
And but that takes work to get there.
It does. It takes a lot of work to get there. And I'm so happy that we can sit here and like get all the backstory of everything because to me, like I said before in my like conversations with people in this, and like I started this because I want to hear people's story. I want to hear about their hustle. And then eventually evolved to like, I want to hear everybody's story. Because to me,
Yeah.
everyone that I meet, because then I will get your story. Because I feel like every story will help and every story will heal. Whatever
Yeah.
you have, whatever you've been through, somebody else will be able to hear it and be like, oh my God, she went through that, then
Mhm.
I can get through that. And she was able to, lose the weight and get through, all these situations and then, empower other people. So that's what I love about this platform now is that everyone I meet, I'll get their stories and hopefully somebody will hear it and hear the tips and tricks that helped you and inspire them.
Yeah. And I'm so appreciative. Like when I first met you and you shared like the mission of Art and Hustle, I was like, I love that so much
Mhm.
because it's so easy to just look at people and judge them, like, or wonder like, how did they get there? Like people look at me and my husband and my son like, oh, how does that work? Like, how did they get there? Like,
Yeah.
what's their story?
Yeah.
And then they see me separately as after I lost the weight, like, oh, how did you do it? How did you get there? Like, you see the before and afters, but
Mhm.
so it's very uncommon to see what happened in between or
Mhm.
hear what happened in between. Like, how did you get from there to there? Like, what was it? And to anyone who is listening to this, if there is something that's been on your heart that you feel needs a shift or needs a change, it is okay, one, to ask for help. And it is okay to invest in yourself to get you from where you are to where you truly want to be. And doing that on your own is really challenging. Like we can get so caught up in our thoughts and the overwhelm and falling into limiting beliefs that we were conditioned by through our entire lives. Rip the band-aid off
Yeah.
and go do it,
Yeah.
because that's how I felt when I decided to get certified as a life coach. My company was shifting into this new category called health esteem and focusing on fitness, nutrition, and mindset. And I was like,
Mhm.
the mindset piece is where I started in fitness, I evolved to nutrition, and then personal development and mindset work really is my calling. Like
Yeah.
I feel so joyful when I get to connect with other women and
Yeah.
help them truly cultivate consistent habits, amplify a positive mindset, and create unbreakable confidence. And to
Mhm.
do that, you have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And when our company shifted to this, and I started asking friends, like, what am I good at? Like, I had a couple friends say, and friends from Momentum, like, you would be a great life coach. And at first, the limiting beliefs of like, who do I think I am? Like, why would anyone listen to me? All that nonsense, the noise, the inner critic shows up. But I said, you know what? I'm scared. I don't know how this is going to work out. I'm terrified. But I was also all those things before I started losing weight and quit my job at Fox News. I
Yeah.
was all of those things before I went from Weight Watchers to Beachbody. I was all of those things when I had a miscarriage and then got pregnant. And all those things, I decided to do it anyway. I ripped the Band-Aid off and I did it anyway.
Yeah.
And so I researched a bunch of different certifications, and I actually went to my boss at Body and I said, hey, I really think that getting the certification can better support me in my role and where the company is going. And so I requested, like, would the company be willing to fund this?
Yeah.
And we never know unless we ask. We
And
never
they
know.
did, right?
Give us the opportunity to do so. And I said, if they say no, I'll fund it myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Just ask. It's okay to ask for help. And you never know what the outcome can be. Just like if I never decided to ask Andrea and call my friend Andrea, who's now a dear friend and mentor of mine, in 2015 to connect me to someone at Beachbody for that role, like, I wouldn't be sitting here where I am today as a executive director of product development and overseeing a nutrition program and a certified life coach if I didn't just ask.
Yeah.
And now, through the work that I've been doing as a certified life coach and the women that I've been working with, we've been so conditioned to be uncomfortable to comfort others. We've been so conditioned to believe that everything has to be perfect and we have to do things ourselves and that we can't ask for help. And that's just not true. And I really want to help break up those stories, like, and stop telling ourselves these stories and help women really define what is it that you truly want and how can we cultivate the consistent habits to get you there.
I love it.
I promise you, if there's something on your heart and you're like, and it's been on your heart for a while, like I recently had a client, she's been considering getting sober. I got sober in 2022. Like, if it's been on your heart, it's time to take action.
Yeah. It's a little bit, your gut telling you something. It's a little bit, tapping on the shoulder.
Listen to that.
Yeah.
Listen to that.
The little voices.
What made you want to do Momentum?
My girlfriend, Sunrise, she was, so how it started with her is that we went to high school together, me and Sunrise. And then eventually we lost touch. She went to college. And then eventually through Facebook, I started seeing like little videos of her. And one video that drew me back to her was a video of her and her husband dancing to a song. I can't remember the song offhand, but the energy between them was just palpable and just so beautiful. And I was like, I gotta link up with Sunrise. I need to talk to her because she seems like she's doing something good with her life. She's, progressing well. I was like, let me get her on the podcast because I had just started the podcast and I wanted to evolve it to more people that, to me, inspire me. And I feel like they have a story,
Yeah.
And so we did the first podcast and she's like, Linda, this is amazing. I support it. I love it. And certain people that I chat with, I was like, you know what? I think we should do a weekly one because I feel like you have more wisdom to tell other people. So eventually me and Sunrise started doing like weekly ones. And eventually, when Momentum came back to where she can gift somebody the course, she's like, I think I want to give you the gift of the course because I think it'll be really helpful for you. So that's how I got into Momentum. And we're going to continue to do these weekly ones with Sunrise also, and other people that I've met and other people I've met with Momentum, because anyone I met at Momentum too, I want to get them on because they definitely have a story, more wit and wisdom to pass out to the world. And to me, it was a beautiful experience to be around like-minded people who are so supportive of like, well, what do you want to do? All right, let's figure it out. Let's get it. Let's get it done. Let's take some action,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's such a beautiful community of just people who want to see other people succeed. Like there's just so much negativity and like competition and like, why does she have what I don't have? Or why does he have, like, and the pointing of the fingers and the judging. And it's like, you lead with your heart, your light, and you're willing to share your light and your gifts with the world. Everything else will turn out the way that it's supposed to be. And like you doing this podcast and then inviting others to share their stories, like you never know who it can touch. You never know what the people who are meant to show up in your life when they're meant to show up. Like I had a girlfriend from high school who we both went to FIT together. We lost touch. We've always followed each other on social media. And she came back on my, like, I've seen her like growing a business. She was a graphic designer in New York. And but then I seen her started growing this other business, this Kundalini business coaching business. And it never really like clicked for me. But then like, as I got certified as a life coach, and I'm in a place right now where I'm like, I feel like there's this untapped potential that I'm not digging into, that I'm blocking, and I'm not sure what limiting belief, like it's the things that I don't know, that I don't even know, that I don't even know them. Like, what is blocking me?
Mhm.
That's that's inhibiting me from getting the, not financial success, but that freeing openness ability to really expand the way that I want to expand and impact
Mhm.
more people
Yeah.
through this work as a life coach.
Yeah.
And I know I'm meant for something even bigger than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And she came back on my radar, and she just showed up like in my feed, and we started like, because you see all these influencers on social media, it's like, I make 100K in my
Yeah.
sleep. And you're like, what? How is it possible? But she has grown her business to be a 7-figure, multi-million
Wow.
dollar business
Wow.
in 5 years. And I know her, and I know her energy, and I
Mhm.
trust her, because I I know the root of her soul is so good
Yeah.
and powerful. And she never does in-person events.
Mhm.
And when I started following her and we started DMing, realized she's out in Laguna Beach, and then she's doing a one-off in-person session
Mhm.
next weekend. And I'm like, oh, what the
Wow.
fuck?
You
I'm
gotta go. You
I
gotta
gotta
go.
go.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is going to necessarily help me,
Yeah.
but I know there's something in my gut saying you're meant to go. You were meant to connect with her, and she was meant to come back into your life at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like this is going to be some kind of catalyst for change.
Mhm.
And with, so many people have sticky situations and relationships with finances and money. I was taught my whole life growing up, like, money's like the devil. Like,
Mhm.
everything costs something. Everything's so expensive. Like, my dad would complain about money all the time.
Mhm.
And what I said was, I'm going to book this, and then a new client's going to come to me,
Yeah.
and it's going to cover the expense. I'm going to make more with acquiring a new client, and I'm going to be able to make more impact on another woman, which is
Mhm.
my main focus.
Mhm.
And then the income is going to come with it.
Yeah.
And that income is going to cover this workshop. No problem.
Yeah.
I paid for it.
Yeah.
I had an initial session with the client. She signed up within 2 hours.
There you go.
Like, it sounds so crazy to me still sometimes. Like, when I say these things, it's like, no, that can really happen. And if
Yeah.
you're doubting yourself and thinking that things like this are not possible for you, I was a overweight, depressed, miserable person sitting in a Fox News cubicle in New York City in 2012. And I was on the trajectory for a mundane life where I was just existing. And
Mhm.
now I don't exist. I fully thrive. I'm
Yeah.
not surviving. I'm
Yeah.
thriving. I'm living and loving my life. I have a beautiful family, and I'm continuing to grow and expand. And no matter what your age is, you can continue to learn and grow and expand and evolve.
Mhm.
And if where you're at right now is not working for you, and it's not what you're truly meant to do and what fills your heart up with joy, choose to change it.
Yeah. And I love it. And what is really coming through for me from you is you're able to sit in your authenticity now. And so your authenticity and your energy that you are exuding now is you're authentically happy of who you are and sitting in whatever you're doing. You're more joyful now, you're having fun, and you're able to help other people and helping people. And like me just having these conversations with people is super like fulfilling to me as well, because I love hearing people's stories because I know it's going to help somebody,
Yeah.
and I can help spread the word.
Yeah. You are a vessel for knowledge. And I love that. Like, I appreciate you for that, because you could be doing something else. You could be doing nothing. Like,
Yeah.
but you chose to connect with you're like the fuse box, right? Like, you're taking
Yeah.
two energies, because
Yeah.
people are all energy, and you're fusing them together because you don't know what it can spark, but
Yeah.
with the intention of like, it can spark something beautiful.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
your story, like your connection with Sunrise,
Mhm.
she put you into the fuse box of momentum. And then from there, now you're growing and evolving and learning and exploring and standing in your authenticity and your power and doing what you're meant to do.
Mhm.
And I love that.
I know. That's the whole essence of it. So I love it. I'm just gonna keep getting everyone's stories because the stories are endless.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story, and every story will help, every story will heal. And that's what my journey was. I'm just going to keep having everybody on to, you know, each one help one, right?
Yeah.
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 So I'm so grateful to have you on. And definitely we're going to have more of these, because I feel like you're going to be another one of these people that are going to have weekly conversations
I
with.
would love to do this weekly with you. And if when you're bringing on other people and hearing their stories, like if there's something in there that you feel like they could benefit from coaching on, like I would love to do like live coachings with you, like
Yeah.
getting like helping people have breakthroughs in the moments. Like nothing sets my soul on fire more than when I'm having a conversation with someone and just asking them questions, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden like the light bulbs go
Light bulb
off.
goes off. Yeah, yeah. I love that. Here's one story I'll tell you, is that when I was starting these, like, and having all of my conversations with Sunrise, you know, like my gifts would start evolving and my stories will start coming out, and I'll start feeling more authentically myself. And so I was able to eventually fully get into a place where I would be able to tell my story. And it was a story of like being abused and all of this other deep trauma story. And so when I was able to finally tell my story on her podcast and then we aired it, her friend saw it. And so, and then Sunrise invited me to like a Christmas party or something. And I got to meet all her friends. And one of her friends eventually came up to me at the end of the event. She's like, Linda, she's like, I was so excited to see Art and Hustle here. she's like, she's like, I'm so excited that you're here. I just saw your podcast where you tell your story. And I was like, oh my God, so let's sit down, because we're gonna probably start crying, because she's like, your story was my story.
Mm.
So I was like, oh my God, we have to talk more, because I know that, you know, this party's ending. She's like, if you want, I would love to have you on the podcast. If you're ready, you can come on the podcast. And this podcast literally has gifted me. I started to like myself more doing the podcast and watching myself
Yes.
edited on a 58-inch TV. I started to like myself. I started to, you know, appreciate who I am and my voice and what I believed in, because I've been limiting myself my entire life
Yeah.
as a kid and family. And so I wanted to gift that to her. I was like, if you would want, I would love to have you on the podcast. And it's been healing for me. So I feel like it would heal you, because if you have a story like mine, there's nothing like making yourself accountable on a giant TV and putting yourself into the universe for everybody to
Yeah.
watch. And so we did like 9 podcasts, and then she did Advanced Momentum. So she's probably on a trajectory now, you know, that I have to get her back on to see where she's at. But
Yeah.
it's
See
been
where she's
beautiful. It's been
evolved to.
beautiful to see her, and then see her light, and then see the little stories that would pop out as we would have conversations.
What's
So
her name?
her name is Tam. So we had 9 podcasts with her. And it's funny to watch some of them, because we'll have those light bulb moments where I'll just start calling her out as she's talking, and I'll see things where she's talking. I'm like, Tam, I see a book. And she's like, you know what? I really wanted to write a book. I was like, she's like, but I was like, you have a book, you should just do it. She's like, yeah, but I'm not like you and Sunrise, where you guys have like all your stories already done and this and that. I was like, I don't really believe it, because I see books and papers above your head, just like visions of it.
Yeah.
And then later on, as the conversation goes, she realizes, you know what? I have all of my journals from way back. Yep. All her journals. And then
that's what's beautiful. It's the
and then
conversation that
yeah.
brings it.
And then add that to the next podcast we had. She's like, Linda, I didn't realize, but I already started writing all of my notes of like her stories and her timeline. She had already, so she did all of it.
Yeah. And if I could ask her, like, what made you diminish that or forget about that? How did that go into your blind spot?
Yeah.
And I would love to hear her answer to that, because what I hear so often, especially, you know, with the women I work with, is that, oh, that wouldn't have been good enough.
Mm-hmm.
My story is not worthy of being told.
Yeah.
Who do I think I am writing a book?
Mm-hmm.
And then change it to like, who do I think I am writing a book?
Yeah.
I am me. And what I have to say is worth being shared and told. And when we actually verbally share our stories and get it out of our heads,
Yep.
that's when we can truly step into our power.
Yep. Exactly.
Even I remember like when you shared, oh yeah, I have a podcast, and like I could feel you kind of playing a little small with it. and you're like, I want to grow to over 1,000 followers. And then people were like boom, 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 boom. And then by the end, like, and even now, like I can feel like you're just so in your power and in your purpose. And the more you share your story, the more you believe that it is truly worth sharing. And even if it's one person that you impact.
Exactly. And that's literally the one person that I helped along the way and brought her on, where to me, like I had to eventually tell this story so I can, it was like eating me up inside. And to me, like, I was like, I have to tell it because I want to help somebody else. There's got to be other people who have been through the traumas that I've been through. And so if I have the courage to tell it, they'll be able to get through whatever they're going through as well. And so that was beautiful when she came up to me. She's like, your story is my story. Like, I'm so, and she was like so happy for me. And it was like such a beautiful energy that we had together where she's like, I'm so happy for you. You've done your podcast. Now you've done like 100 podcasts. And, you know, so it was just beautiful. And that's the energy I want to keep on doing on these podcasts. And so you're going to have to keep coming back on every week. And we'll,
you got my entire life story. And anyone who's listening who is scared to share their story because you're scared of what the people around you think, especially your loved ones, it's not your responsibility to protect them.
Exactly.
To protect their, like, it's not, you're not.
It is exactly. That's how I was able to tell my story. And like people that I think Sunrise had asked me, she's like, well, what did other people in your family think about it who went through the same things that, you know, or was there in your life when all those experiences and traumas happened? And I was like, well, I really don't know, but it's okay. It's my story. It's my truth. So whatever they think and feel afterwards, it's not my responsibility fully because it's my truth. As long as I can sit in my truth, then it's okay. You know? So thank you so much and have a great day. And we're going to have to do another one of these.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Like, finally getting back to me, you know, my art. All I want to do is art. And the other thing is that I love stories. So like to me, art isn't everything. Your art is your voice, your speaking, your connection, you know, you can feel everyone's energy. That's your art. It's the art of living to me. So art and hustle to me is the art of living and art of it and everything.
I hope that you've cut that piece right there and make it your intro and your outro